With the Bismarck having been sunk, the British fleet retired. The Swordfish, which had circled while King George V and Rodney pounded Bismarck, returned to Ark Royal around 11:15 am and jettisoned their torpedoes before landing. Once the last Swordfish had been recovered, Force H set a course southwards at 24 knots, heading for Gibraltar. On the 28th of May, a force of Luftwaffe bombers took off from their bases in northern France to hunt the home fleet. The Luftwaffe air crews missed the bulk of the fleet, which was sailing farther north-eastwards than they had supposed. Nevertheless, they came across the destroyers Tartar and Mashurna, approximately 100 miles south of the main fleet, which was sailing at low speed owing to their fuel situation. The destroyers were heavily attacked, with Mashurna capsizing around noon, with the loss of 1 officer and 45 sailors. During the course of the attack, Tartar shot down one of the attacking bombers. Despite capsizing, Mashurna refused to sink. The 184 survivors were picked up by Tartar and the Canadian destroyer St. Croix. Tartar tried to scuttle Mashurna by firing torpedoes at her. When this failed, St. Croix and Sherwood shelled her. Aboard Dorsetshire and Maori, the German survivors were interrogated. Matros Josef Statz asked the officer interrogating him why so many survivors had been left behind in the water, and was met with the reply, "Just be happy that you have been rescued. We have picked up enough men for interrogation." During the course of the 28th of May, Maschinengefreiter Gerhard Luttisch, who had lost an arm and had been burned, died of his wounds aboard Dorsetshire. His body was enclosed within the flag of the Imperial German Navy and taken by a guard of honour to the main deck, where many of the cruiser's crew and survivors from Bismarck gathered for a brief service, which was conducted by the ship's chaplain. A bugler sounded, after which one of the Bismarck survivors played "I Had a Comrade" on his harmonica before Luttisch's body was committed to the sea. Rodney, escorted by Sikh, Maori and Columbia, was detached for the River Clyde at 5 p.m. that day. Later, at 11:16 p.m, Dorsetshire was detached to make for the River Tyne, where the survivors from Bismarck were landed at Newcastle and taken into custody by the army. Having been landed by Dorsetshire and Maori, the Bismarck survivors were taken to prisoner of war camps across the United Kingdom before being transferred to camps in Canada, where they would remain until 1946, when the first were repatriated back to Germany. The last survivor from the Bismarck would be repatriated in 1947. King George V was delayed by poor weather and finally dropped anchor at Loch Ewe at 12:30 p.m. on the 29th of May, the same day that Norfolk dropped anchor on the Clyde. Following this, the ships proceeded to Scapa Flow. At Scapa Flow, Rodney had her fuel bunkers topped up and her ammunition replenished. Whilst there, she was visited by the First Lord of the Admiralty, A.V. Alexander.
HMS Rodney. To congratulate comes First Lord of the Admiralty Alexander. The pride and prestige of the British Navy was bound in the destruction of the Bismarck. Vengeance for the sinking of the Hood, world's biggest warship. And the feeling is expressed by the First Lord of the Admiralty.
The destruction of the Bismarck, that great and powerful ship, had to be accomplished to be true to the traditions of the British Royal Navy.
At the same time, members of the crews of the ships involved in the pursuit of the Bismarck were interviewed for Pathé News.
And sure was the vengeance taken by our men, and in the characteristically modest manner of heroes, a few of the officers and men who took part tell their story.
I need hardly say that we are very pleased in the Rodney to get this opportunity of engaging the enemy after having to wait for so many months.
Well, it was just nice up there, sitting down there watching things go. She was a fine-looking ship, but you just couldn't take it.
We in the Norfolk are very glad and very proud to be in the fray from start to finish, the only ship in the fleet to have done so.
I sighted her on the port bow, and she immediately loosed off at us. My feelings were pretty mixed for a few seconds until I saw the bricks drop about 40 or 50 yards away from the ship's side. And I realized then that although we'd been Bismarck, we were quite unmarked.
Most of us had done plenty of practice attacks. This was the first chance we had of going out and having a crack at the Huns. And we were all very glad that we hit a really good target.
Many a ship in the Royal Navy will carry evidence of the part it played in the fierce and memorable encounter. Let us salute all with pictures of a few. King George V, Prince of Wales, Ramillies, Sheffield, Cossack, and Dorsetshire, which with her torpedoes administered the coup de grace. What spirit, what courage, what men! Good hell, sailor, have this one on us.
Following the sinking of the Bismarck, the focus turned to hunting the Prinz Eugen and the supply ships that had preceded the German task force to sea. So imbued with locating Prinz Eugen was Churchill that, on the 28th of May, he wrote a memorandum to Admiral Pound and A.V. Alexander concerning the efforts to hunt down the cruiser. Following detaching from Bismarck, Prinz Eugen had a remarkably uneventful and unnoteworthy sortie before dropping anchor at Brest on the 1st of June, where she joined the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. The British met with much greater success, however, in hunting down the German supply ships, which caused a major setback for Raeder's future plans. Hitler held a special naval conference with Raeder on the 6th of June 1941 to discuss the naval situation. The loss of the Bismarck was one of the main issues discussed. Hitler asked Raeder why he did not order the Bismarck back to Germany following the sinking of the Hood. The Grand Admiral responded by telling Hitler that a journey back to Norway through one of the northern passages would have been difficult due to the presence of British light forces and aircraft. Continuing into the Atlantic, he argued, offered the opportunity to refuel and provided the best chance of throwing off the shadowing forces. Hitler also questioned why Bismarck did not pursue and finish off HMS Prince of Wales when the latter broke off the engagement in the Denmark Strait. To this, Raeder explained that operational orders given to Lütjens directed the Admiral not to engage British surface ships unless battle was unavoidable or imperative for the possible engagement of merchant ships. Raeder went on to state that it would have been foolhardy for Lütjens to seek battle with Prince of Wales with two cruisers shadowing and other British forces on their way. If Bismarck incurred further damage, then this might have impaired her fighting ability, resulted in a loss of speed, or reduced her general capabilities, leading to her loss. Raeder did concede, however, that sinking HMS Prince of Wales would have been a greater achievement than Bismarck's final battle. Raeder finally explained that, had it not been for the damage to the rudder, Bismarck would have gained a protective umbrella provided by the Luftwaffe during the early morning hours of the 27th of May, and with that, the pursuit would perhaps have been different, with Bismarck reaching Saint-Nazaire. Hitler did not raise the issue of the future deployment of surface vessels in the Atlantic during the conference. His focus was now on the planned invasion of the Soviet Union, codenamed Operation Barbarossa, which began on the 22nd of June 1941. Without discussing it, Hitler made good on his pledge not to allow Raeder to risk surface vessels of the Kriegsmarine in the Atlantic again. Never again would a German battleship or cruiser seek to raid commerce in the Atlantic. Following the invasion of the Soviet Union, Hitler came to view Norway as the zone of destiny where the war would be decided. In November 1941, he made clear his view that every ship which is not in Norway is in the wrong place. On the 12th of January 1942, Tirpitz, the sister ship to Bismarck, began her journey to Norway. It was a place that she would never leave, being sunk there on the 12th of November 1944 by aircraft of RAF Bomber Command.
Perfect weather sweeps away the defensive smokescreen, and another hit is registered. These RAF pictures show the death agonies of the crippled monster. Months of preparation went into the assault. The RAF, in sinking the Tirpitz, turned in one of its greatest jobs.
The loss of the Bismarck caused the German High Command to think carefully about the deployment of Tirpitz. Before deploying to Norway, Tirpitz was to be refueled and reammunitioned. This was to be conducted at Wilhelmshaven. As she was at the time in the Baltic, the decision was therefore taken to have her transit the Kiel Canal to Wilhelmshaven to avoid sailing through the Skagerrak, where, like Bismarck, she might have been sighted. February 1942 saw Scharnhorst, Gneisenau and Prinz Eugen depart Brest and boldly sail up the English Channel to ports in Germany. In occupied Europe and across the world, the Channel Dash, as the operation came to be known, was viewed as a great German victory. It was a bold and carefully planned operation. In Germany, the returning sailors were heralded as heroes. While the operation succeeded in its primary objective, moving Scharnhorst, Gneisenau and Prinz Eugen from Brest to Germany, it must also be viewed as a defeat. Indeed, the German naval staff summarized the outcome of the operation as being a tactical victory but a strategic defeat. In moving the ships from Brest to Germany in preparation for a deployment to Norway, Hitler ultimately exchanged the threat to the British Atlantic convoys for a defensive deployment against a threat which never materialized, and which at the time was only ever a faint possibility. Gneisenau would be disabled shortly after she reached Germany by an RAF bomb. Scharnhorst and Prinz Eugen, however, would eventually join Tirpitz in Norway, along with the Admiral Hipper, Admiral Scheer and Lutzow. Operation Rheinübung was a failure. The plan was overly reliant on Bismarck and Prinz Eugen, breaking out undetected into the Atlantic. In deploying Bismarck alone with Prinz Eugen, Raeder took a high and imprudent risk. The initial success of the operation depended upon the ships making an undetected breakout, otherwise it was reasonable to expect the British to make an all-out effort to prevent the passage of the ships, and to try and destroy them. In the event, it was an operation of 9 dramatic days, which will remain one of the great sea stories for all time, in which more than approximately 4,000 sailors died during the course of an epic hunt. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more updates, like and share. You can also help to support the channel at Patreon. Details are in the description box below. If you enjoyed this content, why not also check out my Substack page for more unique historical insights and articles. A link to the page is in the description box below.